Welcome to the world of synchronicity. I am your host, Mr. Synchronicity. Are you aware that there are two crimes in U.S. history that have been solved with the help and aid of a ghost or spirit? Today, we're going to cover two murders where the victims came back from the dead to help living people solve their crime and bring their murderers to justice. This first case is the case of Zona Shu. Zona Shu was a young woman who lived in the rural area of the Appalachia. She was described by friends and neighbors as friendly, quiet, and hardworking. At some point late in 1896, Zona met a young man by the name of Trout Shu. He was a newcomer to Greenbrier County. And although her mother had some suspicious feelings about this newcomer, Zona and Trout's relationship moved forward quickly and they eventually got married shortly after meeting. On January 23rd, 1897, Trout Shu was out in a local market doing some shopping. There was a young boy there named Andy. So Trout asked Andy if he would go back to his house and ask Zona if she needed anything from the market. So Andy took off and went towards the Heaster Shoe residence. He knocked on the door. Nobody answered, but it opened just a little bit. So he walked inside only to find Zona Heaster Shoe's lifeless body at the foot of the staircase. Obviously panicked, Andy ran home to his mother's house and told her what he had seen and found, so she called the local doctor so he can go check on her. That local doctor was a man by the name of Dr. George Knapp. When George Knapp arrived at the house, Trout Shoe was already there, holding Zona in his arms, crying hysterically. He would not let anybody near her body or even touch her. When Dr. Knapp tried to examine her body or touch her, Trout Shoe would start to cry hysterically and say, "No, don't get near her." So, after just inspecting her from a distance, Dr. George Knapp diagnosed her death as everlasting faint, which was a period term for heart failure. Zona was buried the next day on January 24th. Now, Mary Jane Heaster, who was the mother of Zona, refused to believe that her daughter's death was just an accident. She couldn't help but feeling that her husband, Trout Shoe, was somehow involved. So for weeks after Zona's funeral, Mary Jane prayed every night asking for a sign. She said eventually there was a period of 4 nights in a row where Zona, her daughter, appeared to her in full spirit form. During these visits, she said her daughter expressed to her that her death wasn't an accident. She didn't fall down the stairs. She didn't have heart failure. She told her mother that her husband, Trout Shoe, strangled her. She said she was making dinner when he got home that night. She told him she didn't have any meat to prepare for dinner. So, in a fit of rage, he grabbed her by the neck, crushing her windpipe and killing her. To really express and show to her mother that her neck was broken, Mary Jane said the spirit itself turned its head around 360 degrees to show her mother that her neck was broken. Mary Jane said her daughter Zona told her that her husband was constantly abusive to her and that he had been married before twice, with one of his previous wives dying mysteriously. So Mary Jane was convinced that Zona's spirit was telling her the truth, so she rushed off to the local prosecutor, a gentleman by the name of John Alfred Preston. Now, obviously, Mr. Preston was extremely skeptical of Mary Jane's claims and accusations, but she was so persistent, he decided to take on the case and look into it. So, a month after her death, around February 22nd, 1897, he pushed to have her body exhumed. So, when they exhumed the body, there were three doctors on site to perform an autopsy. And looking at her, they noticed she had bruising on her neck. They saw fingerprint marks. She had a crushed windpipe, and they noticed her neck was broken between the first and second vertebrae. So the doctors then deemed her cause of death as strangulation by manual force. The findings matched exactly what Zona's spirit had been telling her mother all along, thus proving that Mary Jane was not lying. She basically had every single detail of her daughter's cause of death exactly right. After the discovery, Trout Shoe was arrested and charged with murder. The trial took place in June of 1897. Obviously, the defense tried to discredit Mary Jane by making her seem delusional and crazy for talking to a ghost or a spirit. But Mary Jane was unfazed. She calmly told the jury about what her daughter's spirit had told to her and laid out the exact chain of events and things that happened that her daughter tried to express to her, and showed that the autopsy verified everything that the spirit had told her. Now, on the other hand, the prosecution, they never brought up the ghost or the spirit. They strictly relied on the autopsy, showing proof that there were fingerprints on her neck, her windpipe was crushed, and her neck was broken. Also, local witnesses from the town verified that Trout Shoe did have a horrible temper, and it was also brought up that he had a previous wife who died under mysterious circumstances. Trout Shoe was eventually found guilty and charged with murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, but 3 years into his prison term, he died of a mysterious illness. So, what do you guys think about this case? Did Mary Jane really receive a visit from her daughter who had passed on, who told her exactly how she died? Or do you think she imagined the whole thing? Or do you think there was something else at play here? I think obviously her daughter's spirit must have appeared to her and laid out the full details of what happened, because Mary Jane didn't get anything wrong. When they performed the autopsy, everything was exactly as her daughter's spirit had told her. This turns out to be the very first case in American history ever solved with the aid and testimony of a ghost or spirit. What do you guys think about this case? Let me know in the comment section. Our second case is a little bit more modern. This takes place in the 1970s. This one involves a woman by the name of Teresita Basa. Teresita Basa was born in the Philippines. She had moved to the States and worked in the hospital as a respiratory technician in Chicago. She was described as quiet, educated, she loved music, and would even give piano lessons to the local children. So on February 21st, 1977, police and firefighters were called to Teresita Basa's apartment because there was some fire and smoke coming from her apartment. When the firefighters entered her apartment, they found her naked body underneath a burning mattress with a butcher knife stuck in her chest. Initially, this case was thought to be a breaking and entering and a sexual assault case, but upon further investigation, they found no proof of assault of a sexual nature of any kind. The only evidence they were able to find from her apartment was a journal with a handwritten note that said, "Get tickets for AS." For months, the investigation was stalled. There were few leads. A lot of the evidence was ruined from the fire in the apartment, and they couldn't find a motive for anybody who would want to do this to Teresita. Now, approximately 6 months after the murder, an unusual tip came in to the detectives. A woman by the name of Remy Chua. She was the wife of Dr. Jose Chua, a doctor who worked at the same hospital as Teresita. The doctor came in and told the detectives that his wife was being possessed by the spirit of Teresita Basa. Not only was she being possessed, the spirit would come through his wife and start talking in Tagalog and tell them that her killer was still at large and that her killer was a man by the name of Alan Showery. Now, Alan Showery was a respiratory tech who worked at the same hospital as Teresita and Dr. Chua. Now, the investigators ended up taking this tip very seriously and they went to investigate Alan Showery. And the thing is, Alan Showery's initials, AS, matched the initials that were found in Teresita's journal that day of the crime. When the detectives went to go investigate Alan Showery, they found some of Teresita's jewelry inside of his apartment. It was a pearl ring and a jade pendant. Showery initially denied any wrongdoing, but once the evidence of the jewelry showed up and they proved there was a relationship between him and Teresita, he would run errands for her and do some chores and she would tip him. So he eventually changed his story and he did confess to the murder of Teresita Basa. The trial was sensational. They called it the voice from the grave. Now, prosecutors said they didn't rely strictly on paranormal evidence, but rather on independently developed evidence that they found during the course of their investigation. Showery eventually pled guilty on February 23rd, 1979, and was sentenced to 13 years in prison. So that is our episode today of World of Synchronicity. 2 murders solved by the spirits and ghosts of the murdered victim. In both cases, their murderers were brought to justice and the cases were solved. What do you guys think about these stories today? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in spirits? Do you think that these two cases prove that the afterlife is real and that we can come back in some kind of spiritual form and communicate with the living? What do you guys think of these cases? Please let me know in the comment sections. If you know of any other weird, mysterious cases like this, also let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on the next episode of World of Synchronicity. I have been your host, Mr. Synchronicity. Until next time, have a great night.